An uneasy agreement. That's a development between striking corrections workers and state officials. We'll break down the deal they've reached and the next steps in the process. Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. The corrections strike happening across the state, seeing developments late this week. Yeah, the union representing the workers meeting with the state agreed to a consent award, as it's called, which aims to address the corrections officers' concerns. The number one concern for striking workers is the HALT Act, which limits the use of solitary confinement. Before the deal, some parts of the law were suspended. The agreement will keep those suspensions in place for 90 days. Then the Department of Corrections will evaluate whether or not to keep the changes permanently. The agreement also limits the mandatory overtime that officers face. The agreement does not mean the strike is over. As of Friday, officers remained on the picket line. The strikes were not organized by the union, so it's up to each individual worker to decide whether to accept this agreement. The number of striking workers is roughly 10 to 13,000 corrections officers. The governor has said that those who return to work by Saturday would not face fines for the illegal strike. Some on Friday said the deal makes things worse.
We got a bad deal, that this is really bad for us, and that we need to figure out what our next steps are, because this deal is worse than when we left. The whole bill won't be changed as far as any kind of safety reasons. The only thing that they're changing on it is that they're suspending programs for at least 90 days because of staffing levels. But that doesn't change any part of the safety aspect of HALT.
As of this taping, it remains unclear exactly what may develop in this ongoing situation.
You can stay up to date on the latest developments online with your local Nexstar stations.
Joining us now to give additional insight on the conditions inside of our state correctional facilities, Sumit Sharma. He's the Director of Policy and Communication for the Correctional Association of New York State. Sumit, thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, John.
But just to set the table here a little bit for folks who never heard of your organization, what is it your group does?
So the Correctional Association of New York is mandated under state law, Correction Law 146, to provide oversight for the state's prisons. So we're designated to go into the prisons with notice, speak with both staff and incarcerated people, and then issue reporting and data on the different prisons that we visit and on prison conditions and treatment for both incarcerated individuals and staff. Yeah, that's what I want to hit on first. You're not just there to see if inmates per se are being treated correctly, humanely, but also what's happening with the guards and the treatment. It's a two-way street, I would imagine, inside these bars. Yeah, it's when we're on monitoring visits, we meet with the executive staff, medical staff. We also talk with staff unions when we have the opportunity to do so. And it really puts together a comprehensive picture on the different things that are affecting both people who are working in prisons and incarcerated individuals.
You know, my wife works in healthcare at a hospital, and they don't know when the state health department is going to drop by for a surprise visit to kind of pull files and look at things. Is it similar with you? Do they know you're coming? I ask that because I would think a correctional facility could kind of clean things up a little bit and tidy things up if there's anything wrong going on before you get there? Or do you kind of have surprise visits where they don't know you're going to walk through the doors?
Well, by law, we have to provide a 72-hour notice prior to visiting any of the state prisons. So we do provide that notice. And I mean, there's a level of working with the executive team and the folks who are working with the prison to tell us which direction things are and working together. So there's an element of having to work with folks regardless of that notice period. That being said, there is the way that we uncover a lot of what is happening in state prisons is by talking to folks. All right, having a conversation with executive staff, medical staff. People really want to share what is their day-to-day work like? What are the problems that they're seeing? What are the solutions they'd like as far as how to make things better? So, regardless of that notice, we're grateful that there's a lot of people who work and who are living in state prisons who want things to be better. So we're lucky to have those conversations. I mean, going without notice would allow us to respond quicker to things that we're hearing, things that are happening on the ground. So that would be a good thing for us if we'd be able to go without notice. But right now we have that 72 hours.
This recent strike has us hearing from both sides of those that were inside of a prison. Inmates saying there's abuse going on that you folks don't know about, and that's why they want the body cameras to make sure those stay. Guards saying, wait a second, we were understaffed. We got guards getting hurt. We've got guards being told mandatory overtime when they haven't been home. What are you seeing when you go in? Were you surprised by the strike, or did you feel like this was coming almost like a pot boiling up and it was about to go over?
The system has been at a level of, I would say, crisis for some time now. Right, you've seen an increase in the number of incarcerated individuals who've died year over year, an increase in the number of people under the age of 30, under the age of 40, who have died in prisons, going up from 17% to 30% last year. You're also seeing, right, the increases in assaults, and then the implementation of a few different laws, and then, severe staffing shortages, right? I think the latest data that we had showed that DOCS was about 25% down on medical staff positions, right, lower, and likewise had large vacancy rates for program staff positions, administrative staff positions, and security staff positions. So, right, I think, and then, right, we also, when we talk to people, we ask folks, right, have you seen or experienced some type of abuse or assault? And unfortunately, at prisons like Marcy, 80% of the incarcerated people who we spoke with said yes to that question. So it does differ from prison to prison, but right, all of those things occurring at the same time indicated, right, a bad environment for staff and incarcerated people on essentially a day-to-day basis. So, it's appreciate that, right? Each of these things that are being told to us, either from, right, security staff or medical folks or incarcerated people, right, are affecting them and are all indicators of something greater that is wrong. And I think that's what we saw with the strike. We were surprised to see the strike as there was a collective bargaining that the state reached with NYSCOBA in recent years that, carried them out to the current time period. But that being said, there are a lot of issues and things that need to be addressed that happens, and that, whether through policy or whether through right, transparency and accountability, need to be changed.
Last question, because we got less than a minute left, but and I don't want to get ahead of the trial, but if these officers with the Marcy case, if you see officers going to jail for killing an inmate it was seen on camera, do you think that will have a ripple effect where guards will feel like, you really have to be careful because we are being held accountable if we go over the board and we hurt somebody? Or do you think that will have a positive effect in terms of tamping down some of these confrontations?
Yeah, I think initially when the governor issued the changes around where right, folks would have to wear body cameras at all times, and this look towards installing stationary cameras in state prisons had already had an effect, where people had been saying that the treatment from certain staff was improving as a result of that. Right. I mean, I think another anecdote that came up was if there was a health inspector going to, right, a restaurant, you would imagine that folks knowing that those health inspections are happening would lead to people wanting to, right, put the best foot forward on those health inspections. So similarly, accountability, unfortunately, is part of the equation for improving conditions for both incarcerated people and staff in prisons.
All right, Sumit, we'll have to leave it there. Sumit Sharma, thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you back when all the dust settles from what's been going on now, and we'll see perhaps 6 months from now where things stand. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, John. Take care.
Funding will soon be coming to help the capital city. When we return, we'll be speaking with the agency working to raise the profile of downtown Albany. Also hear the other areas the governor plans to invest state funds. By the way, if you have a comment or a story idea, please tell us about it. You can email us at news@news10.com or reach out on X at WTEN. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. $400 million. That's the number proposed to boost New York's capital city.
The governor announcing the funding with the goal of boosting economic growth in the capital city. The governor's budget proposal focused on giving a much needed surge to Albany's downtown. $150 million will be earmarked for the New York State Museum, with $200 million designated for unspecified projects in downtown Albany.
The governor also announcing projects to refurbish the Empire State Plaza and the Capitol building. The announcements following recent articles and shots pointing out the shortcomings here in the area.
Joining us now to give additional insight on the efforts to invest in the state's capital is Jeanette Moy. She's a commissioner for the State Office of General Services. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here. Thank you.
So can we talk about some of the projects happening at the Capitol and on the concourse? What should people know?
So let me start off with saying I've been commissioner now for coming up on 3.5, almost 4 years. And the governor has really been investing in some of the infrastructure issues that have been sort of a little bit deferred within our agency and the footprint. So just this past year, we completed construction on the Capitol in the Hawk Street Passage, which is, it actually used to be the passage of Hawk Street when the Capitol was constructed. And so we've restored the copper cladding, we've added back in the windows that actually had been boarded over. We've finished the courtyard activities, so all of that is complete. We're gonna have one final clean before it gets opened and have a nice little ribbon cutting to it. We're also addressing some of the overall infrastructure. So there was about $175 million that was put in for critical life safety issues, right? So we've been dealing with conveyance systems, infrastructure, lots of changes that have been taking place right at the plaza. And as well as some of the construction that we're going to start, we are beginning this summer to work on the Eastern Approach, which are the gorgeous staircases that enter up into the building. But it's more than just a staircase. It's the North and South Promenade. It's the entire eastern side of the building. We are going to be doing a lot of work in order to make sure that this staircase, which a lot of people in the region will remember as where they took their prom photos or their wedding photos. They've been closed for over a decade. We're going to begin construction to fix that entranceway, to fix the exteriors. There's going to be a little bit of disruption to the park, but once we're done with that construction, we'll also be restoring the pathways and the gardens. So we're very excited with that work.
Well, people, it's an iconic building, the Capitol building itself, and people love taking photos there. Well, I think what we forget sometimes how old it is, and that some of these things eventually, they can't last forever. They've got to be upgraded and fixed, right?
That's right, that's right. And I remember when I first started on about 3 years ago, taking a tour. And right now it's March, right? The water is starting to, you can hear the snow melt. And I remember the thing that was striking to me when I walked through this ramp is you could actually hear the water underneath the stairs, because Albany has a very high water table.
Sure.
It's a lot of work that has to happen to shore up that infrastructure, make sure that it's safe. We have these little dials that actually are watching the degradation, right? Sooner or later, gravity kind of picks up. And so we're going to get to the root of those issues. We're going to deal with the drainage and restore the Capitol and restore the entire eastern side of the building. We're very excited. But what's incredible is that this year in the State of the State, the governor did announce $400 million to focus on Albany writ large. And so that includes $200 million to look at within a mile of the Empire State Plaza, downtown, the revitalization of Albany writ large. So those funds went to the Empire State Development. They are actively looking for a partner right now to begin a public engagement process. So everyone in Albany is going to start hearing these conversations sometime in spring. There's going to be a broader engagement. Residents, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, what should we do with $200 million to really ensure vitality and vibrancy in Albany, which is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how long do you think this could take before this is all completed?
So the report itself is due at the end of this year. I'm really looking forward to hearing what those ideas might be around downtown. I know there are a lot of conversations around housing, community organizations, history, but it's a great once-in-a-generation opportunity to change the downtown area. And it's not just those $200 million for the revitalization, it's also $150 million to really bring the museum to life, right? That's a huge investment in a well-loved institution. It's another $35 million to look at 787, right? That's an incredible arterial that supports the region, but trying to figure out how we can best connect the Albany community back to the river. That's a huge investment by the governor, alongside funds that are going to go towards public safety. So, over $1 million going to be headed towards supporting the Albany community, and another set of about I believe $20 million that'll be going to additional city aid, which Albany will be able to direct. And
I would imagine too, we're inside of 2 minutes, but people, the spending hawks be like, oh, you're spending too much money, but sometimes every penny you spend comes back dressed like a nickel. And what I mean is, if you upgrade all that stuff, it becomes more vibrant. People want to not just drive into work and go home. They want to stay and have dinners and things, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of diversification that's happening in the Albany economy, right? So, there are changes taking place when you think about what's happening in St. Rose. There's a new training center that the governor just announced. This is one of 3 sites in which we're going to be able to attract great new jobs. Nanotech is coming to the region. In a few years, 3 out of every 4 semiconductor chips will be built right here in the region within 350 miles. So these are great high-tech jobs for our families, for our children, for our communities, and we want to keep people that are coming to the Albany region. We want families to grow. We want people to have a great experience. So this investment is one that we know is going to help Albany further its great trajectory. I mentioned earlier, I'm an Albany resident myself. I came into this community when I took on this job, and I'm very bullish on where we're headed. I'm very excited about the opportunities.
Nice.
Great. Can't wait to see how they turn out.
Oh, absolutely. And when we're going through the process, would love to race up the stairs with you. I believe Roosevelt did it, right? So happy to show off all the great things happening downtown.
We'll have you back on the show too to brag when it's all done.
Absolutely, would love that.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.
The lieutenant governor breaking from the governor recently, saying he will not be seeking re-election with Kathy Hochul. When we come back, hear the governor's response and the impact the public parting will have.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X at WTEN.
Welcome back. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado announcing he will not be running with Governor Kathy Hochul in 2026.
I spoke with Albany lawmakers to get their reaction and learn what comes next. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado has served in the role since 2022. While he says he's deeply committed to finishing the term, he will not be seeking re-election as lieutenant governor. In a statement released on Monday, he said in part, quote, "I am determined to be your voice in state government now and in the future. All options are on the table and I will be exploring them."
It is clear to me that he's not happy being in the role of lieutenant governor, but I wish him well in whatever he chooses to do.
On Monday, the governor's communication director, Anthony Hogerby, released a fiery statement insinuating Delgado wasn't doing his job, saying, quote, "We will also be reallocating responsibilities within the administration to ensure that important initiatives that have been within the lieutenant governor's office are no longer neglected. We reached out to the governor's office to see what, if anything, has been neglected by Delgado, but have not gotten an answer. One of the responsibilities of the lieutenant governor is to preside over the state Senate. During a press conference on Tuesday, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins was asked how he's done in that.
Well, when he's invited to come or when he wants to come, he's been able to fulfill the role, so it's fine.
Over the past year, Delgado and Hochul have had different opinions. Delgado wanted President Joe Biden to end his presidential campaign in June, while the governor touted her support for Biden. Most recently, the lieutenant governor called for New York City Mayor Eric Adams to step down. Hochul has taken a more cautious position. Jeff Weiss, an adjunct professor at New York Law School, says often lieutenant governors feel isolated or ignored by governors.
And that might be in part what led to now Lieutenant Governor Delgado deciding not to run again with Governor Hochul, who picked him to serve as Lieutenant Governor a few years back after her first election. Brian Benjamin, a former state senator, was indicted.
We reached out to the Lieutenant Governor's team for a response to the communication director's statement, but have not gotten a response.
Stick around. We'll be back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit.
If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X at WTEN.
Finally, at Empire State Weekly, the state panel charged with reviewing issues with New York's prosecutors may begin to take up cases.
Governor Hochul proposing more funding for the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct, which would review issues with prosecutors like Monroe County District Attorney Sandra Dorley. She faced backlash after video was released showing her failing to cooperate with a police officer trying to pull her over.
We'll keep an eye on any developments from this and more and bring you, of course, the latest. For now, from all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie Deline. We'll see you here next week.
And don't you forget, you can watch this show, Empire State Weekly, all over New York State. Here's a full list of the schedule for Empire State Weekly on 10 TV stations across the great state of New York.